Le néocolonialisme et le terrorisme, ce sont des phénomènes liés en fait. Le terrorisme n'est qu'une manifestation du néocolonialisme. Un prêt de 50 milliards, et vous pouvez voler plus de la moitié, aller déposer encore dans leur compte, aller investir dans leur pays.
Ibrahim Traore, the transition president of Burkina Faso, captures neocolonialism perfectly and what corrupt African leaders do to their countries in collusion with foreign powers. This is exactly what he said. A corrupt African leader will take a loan of 50 billion francs CFA. He will take about half of that loan and launder it back to Western countries. The remaining, they will share among themselves. You won't see anything tangible they'd invested the money on. Yes, it's right. And knowing that this money is printed in France and before any Francophone country in the monetary union can get a loan, they must deposit an equivalent of 20 to 1 of the said amount in France. More details of this in a moment. You will see the real reason for widespread resentment for France in Africa. Continuing, he said that corrupt leaders, in order to keep the military in check, they sort of defund them. They don't buy equipment, no motivation among the officers, and the country will become weak security-wise. This gives room for insurgents. Because the military is weak, they can't contain them, and out of nowhere, the Western powers will offer to help. Hey, you can't fight them. Allow us to come in and help you for free. Just sign these papers, give us land, and we will build a military base.
La mauvaise gouvernance, déstructurer nos armées, et après le terrorisme s'invite à la danse. Le terrorisme s'invite, on dit que vous n'avez pas d'armée, vous êtes faible, il faut qu'on vienne vous aider. On vient s'implanter, mais l'objectif est tout autre.
That's how most foreign military bases came to be in Africa. And according to Traore, they are all linked together. They are part of the neocolonialism. He cited how Burkina Faso military was equipped in the 80s under Thomas Sankara. After Sankara, the politicians practically defunded and weakened the military. And remember what Sankara said, that even if he is gone, that another Sankara will emerge in the future. Traore wasn't even born by the time Sankara said this, but somehow he resonates that Sankara spirit. That's why he's very popular, not just in his country and West Africa, but also in some Latin American countries and even South Asia. Why? It's because some of these countries in Latin America and South Asia all experienced colonial struggles. They know how they fought to break through and finally emancipated themselves. That's why most of them are wary of neocolonialism. Most African leaders don't seem to be aware of this, or maybe they are aware but they don't just care. Burkina Faso for the moment is in transition to civil rule, and according to their timetable, a new civilian president will emerge next year, 2024. Traore made this interview a few days before he deployed troops to Niger. It's not a surprise that he did it because since the past few weeks, they've been making preparations for that. General Chiani of Niger signed a decree authorizing their deployment. Ibrahim Traore of Burkina also signed his own decree, and now it has become a reality. This is called matching your words with actions. Traore is following the same resolve of Niger's neighbors, who are all against a military conflict in the Sahel region. According to most of these countries, including Algeria, they do not want what happened in Libya to happen in Niger. It's also a way of showing solidarity with Niger, having declared that an invasion of Niger will be considered as an invasion of Burkina Faso. This deployment also shows that Nigerians still feel that a potential invasion by ECOWAS intervention force is still possible. They still take it very seriously, despite the overall feeling in West Africa that ECOWAS will no longer send an intervention force to Niger. While the Nigerian authorities are happy about the support from Burkina Faso, they are still battling with France to deport their ambassador, who they've stripped of all diplomatic privileges. All cars exiting the French embassy are subjected to thorough searches. This might seem humiliating, but it seems Macron doesn't care, because if he cared, he would have evacuated the embassy long ago. Also, the Nigerian police are right in enforcing the search because it has yielded results. A few days ago, they discovered Burkina Faso military regalia in one of the vehicles they searched. This vehicle was searched before the driver entered the embassy. On his way out, it was searched again and they discovered these items. As you can see from this video released by the Nigerian local TV station, this plaque is from the Burkina Faso Air Force. How did it end up in their hands? Considering that relations between France and Burkina Faso is at an all-time low. The Nigerian police are not only conducting searches on vehicles, they are also preventing some people from entering the French embassy. They prevented the EU ambassador and the Spanish ambassador from entering the French embassy. This was after more than 30 minutes of keeping them waiting, and after some calls, they still denied them access. Of course, the European Union reacted angrily, but it's not enough. They should have advised France to evacuate the embassy, including the ambassador, long ago. The ambassador is now a persona non grata in Niger. When someone tells you to leave his house, you have to leave immediately. Otherwise, you can be charged for trespassing. And in this case, France is now an occupying force in Niger Republic. It's not by force to be in someone's country, and they have no right to tell them how to live their lives. The more they resist, the more the citizens become convinced that truly France must be gaining something in a supposed poor country like Niger. The Nigerians have been demanding they close down their military base and evacuate. They've been protesting in front of the military base for days. Most people questioned expressed their readiness to protest there as long as it takes until the French evacuate their military personnel. It seems Nigerians understand people power and know how to use it effectively, unlike Nigerians who prefer to migrate to another country instead of staying home to fight for their rights. East or west, home is still the best. Anyway, the French are already negotiating with the Nigerian authorities to withdraw their troops. Although it is not all of them, but it is still a start. This was revealed by the Prime Minister during a press conference. He also gave an update on the negotiations with ECOWAS, that they will soon reach an agreement. This shows that the protest and the pressure being mounted by the citizens are working. Now, let's get back to how France still continues to colonize Francophone countries in Africa through the monetary union of CFA. There are two unions, the franc CFA that is used in West Africa and the one used in Central Africa. France prints the CFA for Francophone countries. They don't use the francs themselves, they use euro. They also control the exchange rate of the CFA to other currencies. The 8 Francophone countries that use the franc CFA in West Africa keep their deposits in their central bank with headquarters in Senegal. The Central African countries keep theirs in Cameroon. Now, this is where you see how Francophone countries are still being colonized by France. The money France makes from Francophone countries is out of this world. In fact, it has no limit. The central banks of the two monetary unions are mandated by France to keep 50% of their foreign exchange reserves in France. What this means is that when any of the Francophone countries export raw materials, they get paid in foreign currencies, either euro or dollars, and since it is mandatory that their central bank must maintain 50% of their foreign exchange in France, it means they will only receive half of whatever earning they got from the sale of raw materials. You think this one is bad? Wait till you hear this one. In addition to forcing Francophone countries to deposit 50% of their foreign reserves in France, France also demands that the foreign exchange reserves of these Francophone countries that they hold must be more than the money supply in their countries at a ratio of 20:1. That means, let's take Niger for instance, if they have 20 billion CFA in circulation, they must have the equivalent of 400 billion CFA in foreign exchange deposited in France. This means that these Francophone countries will maintain large deposits in France, but they can't touch them because of the conditions, and they will be forced to take loans from European lending institutions while they have their own money. So you can as well say they are borrowing their own money without knowing it. A poor country in Africa just because they are using CFA that is printed and guaranteed by France. The price they pay to use that CFA impoverishes them. How can a poor country not be able to use their own money because of the conditions of the monetary union? And the poor country will be forced to take loans at huge interest rates. How are they even sure that it's not their foreign exchange reserves that these European banks lend to them? It's such a huge price to pay for exchange rate stability and inflation. And forget about all the humanitarian aid from France and European countries. African countries that use the France CFA channel more money to France compared to all the so-called humanitarian aid. So you can understand the resentment for France in many Francophone countries in Africa today. Looking at all these conditions, one wonders why these Francophone countries didn't revolt much earlier. Because they are practically working for the French economy. How can one have money in his bank, but he can't withdraw the money to solve his problems? This is strange. A complete emancipation must involve withdrawal from the monetary union like Guinea did a few years ago. A truly independent sovereign country must decide its own monetary policy. No serious country can outsource that to another country. To make you understand the magnitude of what France gains from the use of CFA in Africa, look at how they quickly hijack the ECOWAS common currency, the ECO. So they gain massively from all the reserves that African countries keep in their country. It's literally free money without interest. So no emancipation can be complete without withdrawing from the monetary union. These countries can set up their own central banks, print their own money and run their economy and monetary policies themselves. They can also form their own monetary union that is independent of France. This is where Nigeria would have come in if they had good leaders. Naira would have been a serious alternative to CFA that will not subject any country to maintain certain foreign exchange reserves like France does. Thanks for watching.